We are thankful for God's blessing upon each and every one of you. 10 years is a long time, 10 years is a short time. But it's good to be with you today. Brother Kenny called and said, I'd like for you to speak, if you can, 5 to 10 minutes. Does all this stuff I brought up here look 5 or 10 minutes to you? Can you imagine telling a retired preacher just 5 or 10 minutes? Well, I'm going to stay in that. I'm going to stay there, okay? I'm going to clarify a few things, what Brother Kenny said concerning a lot of dates and things. Not that I remember better than he does, but I have a journal with me today. And the facts have not been changed to protect the innocent or guilty, as it may be. But I just want to congratulate you on 10 years here. God's poured out His blessing on this place, and we're very grateful. There was a preacher that took the pulpit, and to preach, he took his watch off and laid it on the pulpit. And a little boy asked his dad, "Dad, what does that mean?" The dad said, "Absolutely nothing, son. Absolutely nothing." You didn't get that, did you? He laid it there to see how long he was going to... Never mind. I'm preaching, speaking, whatever you want to call it, lecturing, displaying, whatever, about small things, small beginnings. And many of your lives are intertwisted and twined. I look out there and I see some people I pastored. You did an upgrade when you came here, okay? Just, hello. Chapter 6 in John talks about small things. I'm just going to read that verse, and then I'm going to move to some other things. You're all familiar with this story concerning a lad. In chapter 6 of John, in verse 9, it says, "There is a lad here," and Andrew is speaking, one of the disciples. He says, "There's a lad here which hath 5 barley loaves and 2 small fishes." What kind of fish? Small. "But what are they among so many?" Then we look down at verse 13. That was the small beginning. Verse 13 then says, "Therefore they gathered them together and filled 12 baskets with the fragments of the 5 barley loaves, which remained over and above all that which had been eaten." God multiplied and blessed that small offering there. Despise not the small things. We talk about beginnings. Brother Kenny talked about beginnings. And I think it's important for us to understand that not everything starts big. It grows. It manifests itself. We know that from time to time, as we've gone through life, that things start out one way and then they end up another. We're not sure exactly why or how things turn about, but they do. We first met, as Kenny said, Pastor Kenny, in the jail. I didn't know him. He didn't know me. He was just another face in the crowd that changes every week. Sometimes they're there a long time, sometimes they're not. Just another case, just another kid in trouble, we could say. Not knowing what was going to take place in the years that was going to follow. I kept a jail journal at that time. This book contains 8 years of working in the jail. Things have changed since this. Got too much going on with Jailhouse Rock Ministries. Wasn't able to keep up with the journal. Going into all the working in the county jails. We personally don't go, but we ship Bibles and Christian books and Bible studies in there. And that's a small beginning there. Started out in a garage. But this journal, I dug back in this. How many of you today want me to read from this journal concerning your pastor? How many don't? Pastor Kenny, your vote don't count. Well, I'm going to read this, and I think it, because of the fact that it speaks volumes to us about small beginnings. You never know the lives that you touch, the people you influence. And it wasn't me, it was God that did everything for this young man. This is the Bible that I carried into the jail for 8 years. I would talk to the boys, talk to the men, talk to sometimes the women about getting right with the Lord and about how they needed to live their life. But this journal is very interesting. When Pastor Kenny called me and asked me, he said, hey, would you do this for us? I thought, yeah. And then I thought, hey, that old journal, I wonder if I wrote anything in that old journal. I surely did. So we go back to the 3rd of January, 96 was the year. Some of you are making connections there. Here's what I wrote in this journal, and I have not changed the writing. This is exactly what I wrote. Is that okay, Pastor Kenny, if I? Okay, you're sure? You may not call me Pastor Randy anymore. You may call me something else before it's all over. Here's what I wrote. Cedar County Jail. Only one inmate, Kenny Batson. He was in the back cell, which is the bullpen. Seemed glad to see me. I gave him 2 books and 3 pamphlets. One on alcoholism. That is his main problem. Gets drunk and goes crazy. We talked quite a while. And then he said this. He told me he wants to stay here in jail for 3 more weeks before they send him up. He can watch the Super Bowl on TV here, but there is no TV. There is no TV in the cells at Fulton. And then I put in parentheses, what a deal. I prayed with him and left. And I mean, that made just an impression on me. I mean, I logged it here, of all things, that you write down. But that was the first encounter with him. Didn't think much about it. It was just one of those deals. Then going back the next week on the 10th of 96, that's been 21 years ago, the 10th of January, 96. How close are we on these dates here? Cedar County Jail, no inmates tonight. Kenny Batson was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Then we go over in the journal to 1998. A lot transpired in his life since then. Kenny Batson, the 9th of August of 98. Kenny Batson, former inmate at Cedar County Jail, preached at church tonight. Is that God? It's God. Then over a little bit farther in the journal, we get to 98. Cedar County Jail. Former Cedar County inmate Kenny Batson went with me to the jail. There were 5 inmates. Kenny really helped with the inmates. He talked real open to them and used his Bible and read scriptures. We talked about a half hour. I'll just go ahead and read this inmate's name. Lance Spencer. And another inmate, young fellow, really paid attention. They were really impressed with Kenny and the changes that he has made toward God. I believe Kenny will be a valuable tool used for God. That was in 98. Cedar County Jail, December of 98. I couldn't get to the jail, but Kenny went by himself. He did real good, and all 6 inmates came and talked with him. And then we moved over to the year of 2000. And by that time, we were pastoring the church full-time and were moving into a lot of the county jails, sending in Bibles and books, and things were really progressing and growing. I wrote here on the first day of August of the year 2000, have turned over the Cedar County Jail every week work to Kenny Batson, who has consented to do that for Jailhouse Rock. He does a great job. I wonder whatever became of Kenny Batson. You've got him. And that's what God does through things that have small beginnings. Jailhouse Rock, from 2 jails and a handful of Bibles to all 115 county jails now in Missouri, all 18 state prisons and the Federal Medical Center. God has done it all. As I said earlier, from a garage to an office there on the square in Stockton. From 1 Bible to over 61,000 Bibles sent to inmates over the last 23 plus years. From an inmate in Cedar County to a pastor in Cedar County. You've had a very successful 10 years. Lord bless you. Take care of your pastor.